Hello and welcome to the show. I am Joe Tophat. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is one of the greatest Christmas specials ever made. Based on the book by Dr. Seuss and directed by Chuck Jones, How the Grinch Stole Christmas tells the story of how the Grinch tries to ruin Christmas for the Who's, only to find out that the holiday has a deeper meaning than anything you can buy in the store. It had great animation, catchy songs, and horror icon Boris Karloff. In 1976, Dr. Seuss brought back the Grinch to take on another holiday, Halloween. Because Boris Karloff passed away back in 1969, the Grinch is now voiced by Hans Conried, who was in other Dr. Seuss productions like Horton Hears a Who, Dr. Seuss on the Loose, and that bizarre movie, The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. Is Halloween as Grinch Night better than its predecessor, just as good, or an embarrassment? Let's find out. The folks of Whoville are going about their business when Grandpa Josiah notices a strange smell in the air. Grandma Mariah, take a sniff in the air. Do you smell a galot? No. I smell a bad fart. But seriously, what Grandpa Josiah and Grandma Mariah smell is the sour sweet wind. This causes everyone in Whoville to go inside their houses and barricade the doors and windows. The Who's are scared. In fact, Grandpa Josiah said he wouldn't go out on a night like this for $1.50, then $2.50, then $6.60. What is it about the sour sweet wind that has the Who's so jumpy? The short version is that the wind disturbs the Gree-Grumps, who in turn bother the Hackencracks, who then bother the Grinch, who looks more like his book counterpart than the Christmas special. The Grinch would then come down from Mount Crumpet with his paraphernalia wagon to terrorize the Who's. I hate to be that guy, but in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, his motivation for going to Whoville was that he wanted to stop Christmas from coming. There's no indication he ever terrorized the Who's just for the fun of it. In fact, judging by the line, "For 53 years I put up with it now," it suggests that the Grinch rarely, if ever, had anything to do with the Who's. The Grinch just behaved like a grumpy old man wanting to stop the Who's from having fun, rather than somebody who takes pleasure in bringing suffering for no good reason, like he does in this special. Anyway, as they descend from Mount Crumpet, we get to hear Max sing a song in his head where he wonders why he's stuck with the Grinch, and he wishes he could go back in time to be an innocent puppy. It's beautifully sung by Henry Gibson and serves as a nice character moment for Max. Back in Whoville, the Who's listen to a report from Sergeant Samuel S. McPherson on what the Grinch is doing. Euchariah, Josiah's grandson, tells his grandfather he needs to go to the bathroom, or a euphemism. Grandpa Josiah tries to discourage him from going, but Euchariah really has to go. As he tries to go out to use the euphemism, Euchariah is blown away by the sour sweet wind. You really need to invest in indoor plumbing, Grandpa Josiah. Euchariah wanders alone where he finds Max. He finds Max cute and wishes to take him home. Max points up to his master, and this is where Euchariah comes face to face with the Grinch. It is here that Euchariah decides that he should stall the Grinch until the sour sweet wind dies down. The Grinch doesn't feel that Euchariah is worth his time, but Euchariah is persistent. So finally the Grinch unleashes the monsters from his wagon, and here we are treated to a series of psychedelic images that manage to be both weird and scary. I no longer need to go to the euphemism. Anyway, Euchariah's plan works, and the wind dies down. Max leaves the Grinch and becomes Euchariah's dog, and the two go back to Whoville to celebrate the fact that the Grinch has gone away. But As he pulls the wagon back up Mount Crumpet, the Grinch states that the wind will come back someday, meaning he will come back someday. Halloween as Grinch Night is nowhere near as good as How the Grinch Stole Christmas. In the Christmas special, we see the Grinch's transformation from a nasty grouch to a kind-hearted individual. In the Halloween special, which by the way never once mentions Halloween, we not only see him nasty again, he doesn't redeem himself in the end. Meaning this can't be a sequel because he is nasty once more. And it can't be a prequel because Max leaves him for Euchariah. However, this doesn't mean that Halloween is Grinch Night is a bad special. I admire the fact that Dr. Seuss decided not to make this How the Grinch Stole Christmas set in Halloween. And I also love how Euchariah plays a more active role than Little Cindy Lou Who. And the monsters make for great imagery, and it's the most memorable part of the special. It's something I try to watch every year around Halloween. So while it may not be as good, it's still way better than the live-action movies. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments section what you guys think, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later. Hello and welcome to the show. I am Joe Tophat. When it comes to Christmas specials, nobody can top Rankin Bass. This is the studio that brought us such classics like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, and countless others. Yet when it comes to Halloween, they never really made a special that comes close to the popularity of their Christmas ones. That's probably because they never made a Halloween special. The only exception to this is the movie Mad Monster Party, starring Boris Karloff. They did, however, made a Halloween-themed episode in their TV series Festival of Family Classics. From 1972 to 1973, Festival of Family Classics was a cartoon that adapts some of the most famous stories in the world, such as Alice in Wonderland, Puss in Boots, and even Around the World in 80 Days. The only episode to be based on an original story was Jack-O-Lantern. Is it worthy of being alongside classics like Mad Monster Party? Or is it a rotten pumpkin that should be tossed out? Let's find out. Michael receives a visit from his grandson and granddaughter. They ask him to tell the story of Jack-O-Lantern. You see, Michael keeps a pumpkin on the windowsill, and there's a story as to how he got it. So like any good grandfather, he sits in his rocking chair and tells the story.
My father took me to the dime store, and he bought me this ceramic pumpkin.
Grandpa!
Okay, I'll tell the real story.
His story takes place when he and his sister Colleen were kids. Their father moved them from the city to live on the farm. Michael would plow the field with his horse, Colleen would milk the cow, the father would work the field, and their goat Billy would butt his head to anyone who bends over. Why would they keep him around if he doesn't do anything useful? No matter how hard the family works the field, they can't seem to grow anything. Their father believes that the problem is ghosts and goblins, since their neighbors have the same problem. Michael, however, believes that they just need a better scarecrow, which doesn't even have a head, to scare away the birds. Michael is right about one thing. They did need a better scarecrow. Michael carves a jack-o'-lantern out of a pumpkin Colleen found in the field. The pumpkin comes to life and complains about the holes that bring in the draft. It turns out the pumpkin is a leprechaun named Jack-O-Lantern, who had been hibernating for the winter. Michael apologizes to Jack and explains that he needed to improve their scarecrow. Jack agrees to be their scarecrow, but it won't be crows he'll be scaring. He tells the kids the reason why nobody has been able to grow crops is because his old enemy Zelda the Witch and her pathetic-looking husband Sir Archibald, the Warlock, have been casting evil spells with the help of their ghosts and goblins. Why are they doing this? To drive off the farmers from their land so they can grab it. In other words, they're land grabbers. First, Zelda has her ghost fire hailstones, but Jack just gathers them up in a horn of plenty and fires them right back. Then she sets the field on fire, but Jack makes it rain, which puts out the fire. Finally, Zelda has her goblins freeze not only the fields, but Michael and Colleen as well. Naturally, Jack first defrosts the children. Then he conjures the midnight sun from the North Pole to defrost the fields, which also waters them. Jack has to be the greatest scarecrow a farmer could have. At this point, Zelda figures out that Jack-o'-lantern is protecting the farm. Archibald, being the wimp that he is, wants to call it quits, but Zelda won't let him. She has a plan. While Jack continues to fight off the ghost, Archibald kidnaps the kids. He admits to the kids that he isn't enjoying doing this, which proves he isn't such a bad guy. I wonder how he ended up married to Zelda. Did Link not want her? Zelda confronts Jack and presents him with an ultimatum. Either he gives up his pot of gold, the source of his power, or she'll harm the kids. Jack agrees to her terms, and he gets out of his pumpkin to reveal his true form. You know, I'm a little surprised that they didn't give him at least a green hat. Most leprechauns have at least some green in their clothes. But not Jack. I guess he's trying to break from the stereotype. Anyway, Zelda has Jack and the kids tied up. Archibald is left to guard them, while Zelda goes do some more damage. Even without his pot of gold, Jack proves resourceful. He asks Archibald to pick up his hat. As soon as the wimpy warlock bends over, Billy sends him flying through the wall. Billy has justified his presence on the farm. Jack gets his pumpkin back and drives away Zelda and Archibald for good. He makes a deal with the kids that he'll make the crops grow on the condition that they let him live with them. Like anybody would turn down that deal. The special ends with Michael's grandkids saying they don't believe the story, until the pumpkin starts to talk. Bet they believe now. Jack-o'-lantern is a fun Halloween special. Jack is a fun character. Zelda is a great villain. Archibald is a funny wimp. And the kids are likable. I saw this episode from Festival of Family Classics when I was a kid, and it was the only one that stuck with me. Maybe it helps that it was the only one based on an original story. Any parent who wants their kids to watch a non-scary Halloween special should check this one out. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later. Hello and welcome to the show. I am Joe Tophat. One of my favorite books to read around Halloween is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Published in 1886, the book tells the story of a respected scientist, Henry Jekyll, who takes a drug he invented to become the evil Mr. Hyde. Stevenson was inspired by stories from his childhood about Deacon William Brodie, who by day was a respected cabinet maker, but by night he was a burglar, partly for thrills and partly to fund his gambling habits. The book was an instant hit and spawned many adaptations, starting with the 1887 play by Thomas Russell Sullivan. The 1920 silent movie with John Barrymore, the 1931 movie with Frederick March, and its 1941 remake with Spencer Tracy. Jekyll and Hyde also served as an inspiration for Jerry Lewis's movie The Nutty Professor, as well as its remake with Eddie Murphy. The story inspired Stan Lee to create The Incredible Hulk and Bob Kane to create Two-Face. It also inspired a bad NES game that helped inspire James Rolfe to do AVGN. As I'm sure many of you are aware, most adaptations deviate from the book. Instead, they rely on Sullivan's play, which told the story in a more straightforward manner and included a fiancée for Jekyll. The only live-action movie I know of that remained faithful to the book was I, Monster, starring Christopher Lee, although the movie changed Jekyll and Hyde's name to Charles Marlowe and Edward Blake. In 1986, Burbank Film Australia created an animated movie for kids that many call the most faithful adaptation of Jekyll and Hyde. Is the 1986 cartoon a great adaptation or a misguided attempt? Let's find out. The movie starts off with the burial of Edward Hyde. The police remark that Hyde was a monster with no soul, and the preacher says that no man will mourn his passing. Though there are 4 people who, by the look on their faces, seem to be mourning Hyde's death. They're servants to Dr. Jekyll, just so that we're clear. It cuts 20 years later, where Annie, Jekyll's maid, that's her right there, is now working as a nanny for 2 boys. They most likely made her a nanny because it rhymes with her name. The boys ask Annie questions about Hyde, and she proceeds to tell the story. The burial of Hyde and Annie working as a nanny are not in the book. They do, however, serve a purpose. Hyde's burial helps set the tone of the story, and the nanny with the kids, I suppose, is to help lighten the mood a bit. It is a kids' movie after all. Plus, the book was a non-linear story, and these additions help capture that. Anyway, Annie's story starts off with Henry Jekyll's birthday party. His guests include friend and lawyer Gabriel Utterson, the main character in the book, Dr. Hasty Lanyon, and Mrs. Lanyon. It is here where Jekyll tells his theory that everyone is made up of 2 parts, good and evil. Throughout a person's life, these 2 parts are constantly fighting. Jekyll hopes to separate these 2 parts to eliminate the evil in man. Lanyon dismisses Jekyll's theory as balderdash. Once again, I have to point out a difference from the book. In the book, Jekyll's motive for creating the serum were a bit more selfish. You see, in his youth, he had been a troublemaker, but these urges were suppressed as he got older. The serum was created so he can indulge these evil urges without remorse. While not stated in the movie, Jekyll's age in the book was 50, and Hyde was a younger man. Many adaptations shows Jekyll as a young man, but here he looks and acts like a middle-aged man. Jekyll works in his lab to create the serum, with his only companion being a cat, thrown in for the kids, I guess. He drinks the serum and turns into Hyde. A lot of adaptations exaggerate Hyde's ugliness. This cartoon keeps Hyde's ugliness to a minimum. He looks monstrous with the yellow eyes, fang-like teeth, and caveman-like features, yet it isn't over the top. The book was pretty vague on what Mr. Hyde did in town, so like most adaptations, the cartoon has to make up what he does. In this case, he loves to kill people. First a man on the bridge, and then later a woman in the alley. Back at the lab, Hyde communicates with Jekyll in his head, where he orders the good doctor to make him the beneficiary in his will. I love the visuals in this segment, with the Twilight Zone-like Fanny and the fire later in the background. It shows Hyde becoming stronger. Later, Annie enters his lab to do some cleaning. Dr. Jekyll grows angry when she gets too near a bag of powder that is a key ingredient to his serum and proceeds to bawl her out. Take it easy, man. The poor girl is just doing her job. He holds a meeting with his servants where he states that his lab will only be cleaned under his supervision, and that Edward Hyde, who he calls an associate, will come to the house from time to time, and that they should allow him to do as he pleases. Utterson and his cousin are walking down the street one day, where Enfield tells him of his encounter with Hyde. He was at a pub the night before, where Hyde came in and attacked a woman and a man. The men in the pub proceeded to chase Hyde, where he disappeared, entering the back door to Jekyll's house. This scene was taken straight from the book. In fact, it's how it begins. The only difference is that in the book, Hyde trampled over a little girl, and Enfield caught him, forcing Hyde to pay the parents £100. Jekyll wakes up one day to find he turned back into Hyde, though he was able to get to his lab and change back. This showed that he is losing control over the transformation. He at one point tripled the dose of the serum to get rid of Hyde, but to no avail. This is especially bad after Annie witnessed Hyde beating a man to death. For when Jekyll went for a walk one day, he turned back into Hyde. Since everyone knows Hyde is a killer, he has to take refuge in the crummy-looking hotel, where he sends a message to Lanyon to get the drugs from his lab. Hyde drinks the serum in front of Lanyon, turning back into Jekyll. Lanyon is so horrified to learn this that he later gets sick and dies. When I first read the book and got to this part, I found it a bit melodramatic. I mean, who dies as a result of learning a terrible secret? Upon multiple readings of the book and viewings of this cartoon, I've come to understand why Lanyon got sick. He had found out that his best friend is a monster. Who wouldn't get sick after that? Like in the book, Jekyll confines himself to his lab out of fear of becoming Hyde. The transformations become more frequent, and he eventually runs out of the powder he used as an ingredient to his serum. He sends his servants out to get more, only to throw it out the window with a note saying that the new powder was inferior to the old, and ordered the servants to go to every chemist in London to find the old stock. The cartoon doesn't give a reason why the powder won't work, and neither does any adaptation that I know of, but there is a reason in the book. Jekyll had speculated that the powder had an impurity that caused the serum to work in the first place. Since he doesn't know what the impurity is, there's no way he can recreate it, thus why it was important for him to get the old stock. The servants become concerned for their master and turn to Utterson for advice. They hear a scream from the lab, so they break down the door, where they find Mr. Hyde dead. On the table, they discover Jekyll's new will, which leaves everything to Utterson, and notes where they learn the truth. The movie ends with Utterson and the servants at the cemetery, vowing never to reveal the truth to anybody about Jekyll and Hyde. I guess the kids don't count as anybody. This Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde cartoon is a great adaptation. It's definitely aimed at kids with the inclusion of the cat, the scene where the mouse becomes Hyde, and the kids Andy is telling the story to, but none of these elements becomes a distraction. The voice acting is good, and the animation can be a bit stiff, though it's nothing too bad. The movie's greatest strength is its faithfulness to the book. After seeing so many adaptations give Jekyll a fiancée, it was a big relief to find one where he doesn't have one. I also like how it showed what happened after Jekyll and Hyde's death. If you are looking for a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie to show to your kids, or one that's faithful to the book, check it out. If you want a faithful adaptation that's more adult, check out I, Monster with Christopher Lee. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments section what you guys think, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later.